Okay, looking on through the agenda, approval of the agenda. If you would, if y'all have an opportunity to look over the agenda for tonight, there's no changes. Could I have a motion to accept the agenda as is?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Item 4, the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine to be enacted by one motion without discussion. If a member of the governing body requests discussion of an item, the item will be removed from consent agenda and considered separately. If everybody's had an opportunity to look at the consent agenda, if there's nothing you want to talk about or remove from that agenda, could I have a motion to accept the entire agenda?
Motion to accept the entire agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 5, public comment. I don't see anybody signed up for public comment tonight. But since we don't have a huge audience, I don't think I got to worry about opening it up. So we will move on to item 6. Okay, under 6A, this will be about the economic impact study. Robin Spinks, President of Greenfield Consulting, and Vaughn Hanson
Yes, sir.
are both here, and if y'all would, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for coming tonight.
Run through those slides with me. You got it. Okay, good. Do y'all mind if I take this off so that you can hear me?
You're fine. You take it off. Take it off.
You'll be able to hear me a little better. Thank you. First off, thanks for letting us do this project. We are excited that 2 of our 3 project members are here this evening, and the only reason the other one isn't is because her part isn't done yet. So, if you'll go on to the next slide. The purpose of this was for us to do an economic impact analysis of the potential new downtown. And so we kind of divvied it up into 3 sections. Greenfield, which is me, we are the ones that did the market analysis and looked at the different sectors and what physically would work there, what was the market going to stay in there. And then we brought in benchmark planning to take those sectors and turn them into something physical on the ground and give you a concept and some ideas of what would go there. And then once we have the square footage and the data about which sectors and what kinds of jobs, then we'll feed that into the in-plan analysis and do the impact. And so tonight we're finished with, we'll say, part 2, physical design, and ready to go to the next. And just the timing was great for us to show you where we are so far. So, some of you have already heard some of this information, so forgive me if I'm repeating, but not everybody has. So we wanted to do the sector recommendations based on a couple of things. One is what kind of money is leaving Belville now that could stay here in terms of the different types of, any human being and what they spend their disposable money on. Oh, thank you, perfect. So that's what we call a leakage. And then there, if you, I don't know that you can see very well with that tiny little map down there, but it has about a ton of green dots on it. And those green dots are all businesses that are located in a zillion people's homes around. And so we're looking at things that are less likely to be able to be performed from home. And certainly with COVID, that makes a big difference these days. This was sort of before we really started thinking about COVID when we got started, but now that makes a difference. Things that would support both tourists and locals. And we wanted to look at things that would have the highest economic impact in terms of sales tax and wages, property tax, occupancy tax, that sort of thing. And we wanted to take sectors that were specifically downtown related. So, a building supply store is probably not going to go downtown, even though that might be something that the money leaks out of town. So then what we did was to take a look at all the potential sectors that we just described. And you can see for the most part, they are retail and office related, and then either entertainment or tourism related. So I don't have to tell you the strengths of why this piece of property on this area is appropriate, between the highway visibility and the waterfront and the fact that it's a large area that has the opportunity to be redeveloped all at one time by a single developer and really turned it into a vision that works. But some of the things that you might not know about that we did when we studied it was there's a huge amount of retail leakage, and we got all the data behind that certainly we are providing to as the backdrop. But just the summary of it is there's anywhere from, for the most part, 50% of the money that somebody has in this 1 and 3 and 5 mile radius of this property is legal. And we want to try to keep that here. And other than Wilmington, there's really not any other downtowns over, on this side of the river in terms of those suburbs. So that's another opportunity. And there's not another single hotel on Highway 74 until you get to Larnbird. So that's interesting. And because there are so many little green dots on that map where people that are, have businesses and they own in their home, there's certainly some opportunity to move some of that stuff out into co-working space or small office space in a downtown that's close by. The weaknesses, I think, are pretty obvious. We have and I'm going to talk about COVID just a little more in a second, but we just don't really know what the long-term impacts are going to be there. The 1 mile radius is kind of, the population is pretty small, but the 5 mile radius is huge, and so that's good. And the only other sort of negative is that the population, the age of the average age, median age in the area is fairly low, and old people don't spend as much money on stuff as young people do. But they spend more money on eating out, so there you go. When it comes to COVID, we all have heard an awful lot about what kind of impact there may or may not be, and certainly retail and downtown retail in particular are taking the biggest hit. So we don't know if that's temporary or whether that's really going to change long term. I can tell you downtown Wilmington, for those of you that might have been there lately, it looks pretty sad. And so we just don't know where that's going. And also the densities and the urban mixed use is not quite in as much favor. But there are some significant positives that we think make a difference that are impacts. And one of them is that there's a huge growth in the logistics industry. I can tell you that there are speculative warehouses going up in Wilmington for the first time in a long, long time. And the port is growing like crazy, especially with cold storage. And so there's going to be employment around here, and people are going to have more opportunities and more money to spend and more less unemployment, if you will. So that certainly helps. The COVID has created a significant shift of everybody who can afford to leaving the northeastern United States and moving here. And Brunswick County is the fastest growing county, as you well know, in the state of North Carolina. So y'all are definitely poised to gain some of this population and people who don't have old shopping patterns, we'll just put it that way, and who might be looking for something interesting and being tourists here. So very quickly, the recommended sectors that based on the leakage and based on all those things I just said, we chose things that we thought would be the highest impact. So dollars per square foot of sales were interesting. So cell phone stores are one of the highest. You can imagine that jewelry stores would be, the cell phones are right up there. Those are just two examples. But the leakage in all the areas is restaurants, food, clothing stores, sporting goods stores, and that one's fun just because you got the river there, and so kayak rentals and things related to the waterfront and the sporting opportunities are good. Books, music stores, and antiques. of all things, are coming back in style these days. Add to that the 3 mile leakage, which adds health and personal, which is like drugstores. And then the additional 5 mile leakage, which the 5 mile map, this map up here shows you the circles that, that are those 5 miles, and that 5 miles goes way past downtown Wilmington. There's still some leakage there, things that people, would be easier for them to come over here to buy than it would be for them to get to the mall or Mayfair. And then the other sectors that we recommended in addition to those retail ones, we know that y'all want a hotel, and certainly there's an opportunity for a hotel. I did talk to a number or several hotel developers in discussing this to try to figure out whether, what our thinking was and whether or not we were thinking the right way. And the thing that's interesting about this location is it actually fits in 3 different subsectors. So you got 3 different kinds of developers that might actually look rather than any one. So you could call it a downtown hotel if you wanted to, or you could call it an interstate hotel if you wanted to, because they're in one, or a suburb hotel. So it has all 3 of those opportunities, which we thought was great. We know you wanted some meeting space, so we definitely included that. In addition to those retail sectors, we really felt like office was important because that has higher wages, and we wanted to make sure and include some office space for things like insurance and obviously retail, real estate offices. And we felt like, and Ron's going to talk a little more about this, that residential was appropriate, but only if it was part of a mixed-use building and above, not a footprint of an apartment building, but above the retail and office, kind of like Mayfair. So the things that, so all of that sort of, what we told Vaughn after all of that was that these are the things that we wanted to see in the physical design, is that we wanted to see mixed-use, multi-story buildings. You've got a maximum of 50 feet that's allowed in your zoning code now for that downtown overlay, but the higher we go there, the better you'll be able to see it off the highway, and the more prominent it will be to anybody driving along the highway and back and forth. So we thought that's good, and then you'll see on a topo map that I have later, this little elevated hill where the DOT facilities are that make that work real well. We also know that you're working on a Riverwalk and some park space, and so we didn't want to compete with that in any way. So our stuff only shows the buildable space, and the park space would be a complement. We've been talking to Adrian and the folks who were working on that and trying to coordinate. So we haven't shown you any of that, but it needs to be coordinated. And we wanted to make it flexible so that the event spaces, and again, talking to the hotel developers, whether that event space is owned by you or whether it's owned by the hotel is something that will probably need to be discussed depending on what brand the hotel is looking at. Because some of them want to own that space as part of their revenue stream, and some of them don't. So if y'all are flexible, I would hope that you would be flexible with them too, just to see what fits. And then there were some physical issues that we had to deal with. There's a transmission line, and that bottom picture map there shows you that red line at the bottom. Can make it go there. Anyway, I think you can see it. It goes right through the middle of town. Y'all already know that anyway. So that's going to have to be moved. And we're assuming that it will be moved to be parallel to Highway 74 and sort of at the back of the space. The other thing is that the existing streets that are in that general vicinity are not in great shape, and I understand there's some discussion about who's going to own them long term, so this is a good opportunity to work all that out. The access upgrades from 74 to get there have to have some attention. Mr. Vaughn's going to talk a little bit about that. There's a whole lot of different multiple owners you're going to have to deal with, obviously. So we're still, even that being the case, we're just looking at it as one development. We know there's some litigation on some of that. We also know there was some there may or may not be limitations on dredging. There's some grandfathered space there with the dockage that DOT has, but if you look at that navigation chart right there, you'll see that the depths are anywhere from 1 to 5 feet, which is pretty shallow. So there may be some issues with being able to dig out for a marina. And certainly this is old working waterfront, so from an environmental standpoint, y'all have good reports, and so any information that's out, I mean, it's already been studied, so that's good in terms of the next stage. And last but not least, there's a huge amount of wetlands, and Vaughn will talk more about that, but all of that yellow and blue that you see on the map up there on the right-hand top right is all wetlands. And we really wanted to stay out of that. Vaughn will talk a little more, but it's expensive to build in that space, so. And with that, that's sort of the background. And then from this, based on all that information we handed to him, he's got some good info for you. That's what it looks like.
Right, so we can go to the next slide. Vaughn Hanson, again, benchmark planning. Thanks for having us.
He's got the clicker.
Oh, well, I've got the clicker.
Yeah.
Next slide, me. So in front of you, you have this conceptual plan that we prepared for the site based on the inputs that Robin gave us and the directions she passed along from the town, and our analysis of the site from a capacity standpoint and from a physical environmental standpoint, from a planning perspective, not necessarily from an engineering or pure environmental engineering perspective. So, as Rob mentioned, one of the things we wanted to do was to stay away as much from areas of the site that had identified environmental impacts, these being primarily wetlands and special flood hazard areas, 100-year floodplains. We noted that we looked at previous iterations of plans that have been prepared conceptually for this site, and noted that a number of them had proposed development that extended into some of these areas, particularly F and A, shown on this conceptual plan. We felt that development costs would be fairly significant, and that environmental impacts from both a stormwater perspective as well as from a flooding hazard perspective would make a big difference in terms of the cost of development, the long-term viability of the project. And so that the blue line on the map that you see in front of you shows where the current defined 100-year flood elevation is. With regard to internal street network design and external access points on the site, one of the things that you'll notice right offhand is that we cut off the Main Street entrance. Long term, I would imagine the DOT's plan is for there not to be, actually, I believe at one point they put in a cul-de-sac there on Main Street.
Maybe a week.
Yeah.
We convinced them of that.
And they opened it back up.
The way the current traffic was and everything, we needed it open.
Yeah. Long term, looking at that, is the distance between, or the intersection of Main Street coming in right in the on-ramp in that diverging diamond onto 74, felt that probably wouldn't, given the potential volume of traffic coming out of there, probably wouldn't be as well received by DOT. And so we essentially proposed a new primary entrance into the development, a 4-way intersection, basically right across the street from here. Then we go all across a small area of wetland, probably be mitigated fairly easily, but it provides the most rational point of access, we think, for a major intersection going to the site. That entrance also provides the ability to have a street kind of serving as a new main street going to the center of the development and ending with the nice terminal vista at a proposed waterfront hotel. Just long term, looking at road projects, we'd like to be looking at widening of 133 through this area. Along with that, you probably have to, or somebody would have to move the existing truck U-turn out here at this intersection. Probably still need to have that in place because you wouldn't want trucks coming through your downtown area. Move that to the south. I think there's a billboard down there. It looks like a pretty decent location on a little bit higher ground. Probably get that in, and then improve the Old River Road 133 intersection to provide a secondary access point for fire access, among other things. A simple modified grid street network in there, providing lots of block frontages, on-street parking, etc. From a site perspective, I think it lays higher ground there where the DOT site is right now. Visibility and the site design into the allocation of where they go on the site. In the bottom there, and so along the highway, the main highway frontage, on the northern end of the site, is what I mentioned earlier, calling that basically a row of small 10,000 square foot office buildings up there with parking. Nice, nicely landscaped, not really, buffered areas, clean things to make it look. Retail structures, ending that main street with retail, residential, waterfront hotel, and convention space we mentioned. And then an elevated boardwalk there, with several opportunities for doing small, 4,000 to 6,000 square foot maybe, eating, drinking, entertainment type of establishments there on the water, but elevated above the flood elevation. And then going back to the southern end of the site, which are coming in primarily office along the southern end and on the back side of the site there. As Robert mentioned, we did want to include office space in this. One, it generates opportunity for having higher income impact in the development, looking at economic impact analysis. Residential component, from a square footage perspective, it lowers your parking requirements. We also think that having a strong residential component to it, we would think that it would primarily be for sale type units, condominium, second home, skid tear, kind of develop something that's a little bit different on this side of the river from Wilmington, something that's not as available in Brevard County, but will be attractive to a pretty wide range of people, for everything from young professionals to folks looking for a second retirement home in this area. And then the event space next to the hotel, keeping it separate, adds some flexibility in terms of ownership and operation of that as well. And just another thing about having residents during off-peak and shoulder times of year when you don't have as many tourists, we think this would be a big tourism generating site or tourism attraction because you're really the only water, Southport, but this would be the only real waterfront in terms of the downtown Brevard County. But having the people there to generate some activity in the evenings and on weekends, and there might not be as many people coming in from outside, at least in the earlier period, just make sure it doesn't look like it's dead. So that's the grand total of the square footages on this slide. We figured the hotel based on, we looked at a hotel in Beaufort, we kind of similar situation, and looked at some hotel designs in terms of room square footages and auxiliary space, and came up with a 4-story, 84,000 square foot structure for that. Of course, with all these, the ultimate developer is going to have a lot of input into what it's actually going to be, but we needed something to draw off of about a 10,000 square foot convention space. Host meetings every anything 50 people to 400 people in a space like that. About 85,000 square feet of retail, which is a lot, but we're trying to make as much use of the ground floor space and site along those main streets in there as possible. Most of the retail would most likely be in the 1,000 to 2,000 square foot range, except for restaurants or other types of entertainment venues like that might be a little bit larger. And then office primarily is a mix of small single tenant buildings. Those 10,000 square foot buildings can be single tenant. They can be mixed up into 5,000. Most of it's divisible space that we're looking at, or upper story office. But there is one larger building, that's number 11, which would be kind of a dedicated 40,000 square foot office. If you ever, if a big kind of anchor tenant ever wanted to move in, we think that'd be a pretty good space for them. 9 would kind of fill that role as well. But the office is really occupying those areas of the site that are a little bit lower value in terms of street frontage, in terms of pedestrian traffic that might be harder to fill with retail space. And since we're not doing ground floor residential development, you need something that can generate some activity in those parts of the site. I did a theoretical parking demand calculation. So if every single use was at its peak at one time, I think it would be around 1,350 spaces of demand, which is a fair amount of parking. But with the mix of uses that you have on the site, you have a lot of opportunity to have shared parking. I think probably about a 25% reduction in the peak overall, because your office is on peak 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Your retail and eating and drinking establishments, they're going to be on peak in most of the time from 6 to 10 p.m. On weekdays and all day Saturday and Sunday, and residential in the evenings as well. So you're able to share and use some of that office dedicated parking to be occupied during the day, during the week, for residents, for retail businesses at other times when the office space is in high demand. Hotel, we probably have more kind of dedicated parking. We figure about 160 to 200 spaces for that. It's about a 120 room hotel that we figured for that. In the convention space, we would probably share, I think a large portion of that when you had larger events would be people who would book probably the entire hotel. So they'd be parked already, so they wouldn't be generating as much demand. But that 1,350 would includes everything all at one time. We've looked at some previous iterations of site plans for the site and did note that some people had proposed doing at least one level of underground parking. We think that that might be possible if there's a need from a stormwater perspective, especially to reduce your impervious surface area that's dedicated to parking. Buildings, so basically starting at building 11 and then going 9 and 4 and the next 4 on the other side of Main Street. We think you could probably get one level of underground parking in there for the kind of cut and cover kind of development style. And excavated that, but parking beneath, built out there, maybe get about 300-ish spaces if they're absolutely needed. Park underground or above ground structured parking is very expensive, and so if there's a way to avoid doing that, I think it's in everybody's best interest to do that, especially with the cost of doing foundations for extremely large structures like that, this kind of soil environment. And just back of the envelope, based on some rough construction costs, look probably about everything altogether about $100 million in construction value. That's not tax value necessarily. Probably about a quarter of that increase for land and other parking improvements, things like that. So about 125 million overall if everything was built at one time. Of course, that's not how these things work. But it, fairly significant investment in the community if this kind of concept came to fruition. So again, this is just to give you an idea of what a theoretical site layout could be, bringing in these types of uses and this mix of square footage. And the other thing, Robin asked us to take a look around and see what this might look like from a visual perspective in terms of existing development precedents. So I'm just going to run through a few. The first one, and they're a little bit different scales. The first one is a development called Habersham. This is in Beaufort, South Carolina. If you're familiar with some of the west side of the peninsula, kind of due southwest of the northeast southwest runway at Marine Corps Station Beaufort on the water down there. It's built as a primarily residential kind of traditional neighborhood development, but the small downtown area they had as you come into it, I think kind of evokes maybe some of the kind of architectural style that you're looking at, similar types of activated Main Street. There's on-street parking, there's shopping, there's upper story residences or office space. Another view of a corner shot in Habersham, just a little bit different view there. Street view at night, having kids. So a variety of architectural styles. There's a lot of different ways somebody can go. I think some of the bigger precedents you see, even around here, if you look at Mayfair, it's more architecturally kind of modern, for lack of a better term, in brick. I don't know if that's exactly what you'd be seeing here. I think something more in line with a coastal type of architecture would be appropriate. This is another one from down in South Carolina, the other end of Beaufort County. This is in Bluffton. It's called the Promenade. This is a more commercially focused, new downtown. Bluffton kind of appeared from nowhere over the last 20 years or so as the gateway to Hilton Head, essentially. And they built this commercial building. It's been pretty successful. I visited only one time to have dinner down there. I was working on a project down in Beaufort, but I really like what they did with it. I think, again, from an architectural perspective, we were talking about 3- and 4-story buildings. This demonstrates one of the ways you can kind of do what we call general density. You're looking at those upper stories there that have kind of open spaces and the building set back a little bit. So you're not kind of domineering over the street as much. You have a couple of lower levels that are up to the street, but you're stepping back a little bit when you get to higher stories. Just a couple other views from down there in the promenade, again showing kind of a mixture of architectural styles, even though the buildings are kind of built as a single unit. Street scene. Kind of showing the on-street parking, how that interacts with building frontages and that kind of environment. And the last one, probably one you're a little bit more familiar with, is of course over on Eastwood Road, Limited Station. And we really used, from a footprint perspective, these buildings are kind of on the back side of Limited Station as the model for the square footage, roughly proportionate kind of building style. I think we have residential units, you would have balconies instead of just plain flat front face on the buildings like that. But if you're looking for something that's kind of the same size perspective as those buildings labeled 2, 3, and 4 on the site plan, if you go over there and kind of walk around, you get that same kind of perspective from looking at these buildings that are there on the back side. And then from an architectural perspective, looking at some of the buildings labeled like number 1, this is a 2-story, upper story office building. I think could be a 2-story office and retail, what have you. These smaller ones, that restaurant kind of on the right side coming off Eastwood over there. It's called the Stone Crab House. Been many things over the years. This is about the size of the building you'd be looking at over there, kind of on the boardwalk area, the elevated boardwalk you see. And just again, architectural styles, I think that kind of double hip roof with transoms is something you see on a good looking style for single story buildings, especially in development like this. And so that concludes, I believe, my portion of the presentation. I'd be happy, and Robin will be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, let them feel free. We've done a lot of talking.
I'm long-winded, I'm sorry.
These are amazing plans, they really are. I'm kind of for it, because it's moved some things that, I think we thought of it like kind of how it is now, trying to build up on what exists.
Sure.
And you really kind of move some things around that really, I think, optimizes the space better. I like it, pretty much like it.
Good.
I think the concept, and I think y'all carried our concept very well, we want something, for the people in our area. The main thing that I hear, because I talk to a lot of people every day, but everybody says, I want to stay here.
Right.
And not go across the river. Everybody gets frustrated with the traffic. And even Wilmington itself, other than its actual downtown area, they got shopping centers and strip malls, and just like we have over here. So I think about the design here, at least what I'm looking at, the multi-use is going to help out a lot, but it gives the number of people we have in here, if those shops give them what they need, they will shop here instead of going across the river.
Something we didn't talk about is the fact that they're talking about having to redo that bridge. And, not too long in the future, and more when you're gonna have traffic issues getting back and forth across the bridge, you're gonna need some stuff here on this side.
I sat on one of the committees that's trying to decide on what we're gonna do with that. That's probably a projection at least 5 years away.
Sure.
But the concepts, we're having a real issue on trying to decide what type of bridge is gonna replace
Oh,
the
yeah.
kicker or the bridge. But I like the concept. We realize the power lines that you have, we've already, there's been one discussion one time with them, and, it's not gonna be cheap moving those lines.
Exactly.
It'll be in excess of about $6 million. So that's something we'll have to work out with Duke or whoever, the developer or a developer who wants to come in and work with us on it. Duke's usually been fairly good to work with, especially on assisted towns and areas with economic growth, but it benefits them also.
Yes.
But I'm like the Mayor Pro Tem, really like the concept you've given. We're really looking at it because one thing we hear from some of the business owners in the area and our some of the people that try to attract businesses and things to come over here is about me. People don't want, a lot of small businesses or some of the medium-sized businesses don't want a big place like the convention center in Wilmington. But they would love to have just enough space, maybe seat 300 or 400 people. That could have a fairly nice hotel. You can fill that up, and people love to come. That's a little bit more low. The cost is not way out of sight for them. And they got beautiful scenery to sit on the riverfront and access our park directly off that riverfront. I had another discussion with the gentleman who does the water tours, Doug Springer. He's more than willing to open up a taxi service from here to the downtown Wilmington area.
Absolutely.
So the pieces are coming together, and y'all have started to generate that. We need the process to get it started, and then get the people with the money to come together. And then they'll take a look at it. Of course, we're gonna need people like you to also help promote it. And whatever changes the board of commissioners want to take a look at, any other ideas. So I think it'd be a major, if we can get this concept, it'd be a major thing for the north end of Brunswick County. And at the rate we're growing, and I think when COVID slows down, that growth rate's gonna pick up a lot more energy's gonna come in this area, and I'd love to have this situated in a packet we could put together to show people what we want to put here,
Absolutely.
and that we're going with it, and with some of the money people that are out there right now looking for these opportunities, and y'all know some of them, I know a lot of them, and I think we can get it all the pieces to come together, start signing the contract. When I see the contract, I'll be a lot happier when the signature's on it. But
So we put this presentation together pretty specifically for you to use for that very purpose. To talk to landowners, to talk to potential developers. And then, of course, we have all the background and backup data to go along with it.
yeah, it's gonna help us a lot, in the political world, the government world, DOT owns 30-some acres of that land. They decided to go into negotiations with us on the procurement of that land. So we want to show them the economic advantages and give this whole region area, which politically helps us out a lot too. The governor's office now, they like these type of projects too, our local representatives. I've been talking with about it, and I got something I can give them that can look at it. So that gets the ball rolling.
Well, it shouldn't be more than about a couple of weeks before we have now that we're finished with this stage of it, you can dump all of this information into the model, and hopefully we'll have the impact analysis results pretty quickly.
I just, like I say, get the feel for one of the issues, we have here that I think, like you said, you did make one thing, most people moving here are retirement age. So, like you said before, us old people do like to eat and go to nice restaurants, but we're not big into turning our money loose on a lot of the other shops.
We already have all the stuff we need, right?
But I'm hoping, looking at some of our demographics, I hope it's gonna change a little bit. A lot of the apartment complex and everything to build in attract younger people, not the older people. And, they need to start, trying to go after some of that, get younger couples and families with kids coming in. And, but, you know, if they move in here now, they really, other than going to Walmart, you have no place to shop.
I saw an article today that was, and I don't remember who exactly it was from, but it was in this afternoon's Wilmington Business Journal, that said that Wilmington is one of the top 10 underrated tech hubs. And so, and it was some national publication that had put together this analysis. So that's the kind of stuff that the Wilmington Chamber is going to be using to really try to push, because they've been trying for a long time to push that creative class economy, as they call it, or that's kind of the old fashioned way to call it. And, you know, a lot of those folks that don't have to stay in a big office building in New York City can move to a place like this and have some small co-working spaces, or and would be a younger set. So we definitely have that opportunity available to us.
It's a good opportunity. I even talked with someone today, that's in the business world big time. Amazon.com has been looking at this area
Yes.
about putting a facility here in Brunswick County. And, that's going to attract a lot of, business people if that happens, which I think, right now looks fairly good. I just found that out today. There's a lot of potential if we're prepared and we get ready for it and we start with what we have. I think the offer in this entire area here across the street from the riverfront is just going to attract people. People love the water, love to get down to the boats, marinas, to restaurants, walking trails where they can walk out of the town environment. Next thing you know, you're walking in the middle of the river. So I think we got a lot to offer. We just got to put it together, find the resources, and then go to work.
Well, I hope you will end up with nice marketing materials that you can use.
I think what you're giving us, this is what we need, because, you know, I can talk to 100 people, but they want to see the studies, the feasibility, and pictures, put things in your mind. We can look at them as well as the numbers. So, you know, it starts making people think, and that's what we need. I want the people with the money to start thinking what the potential is for the area that we have over here. But we have not been good. I've been here 7 years now, and we just have not sold our town. And that's something we're trying to turn around. I think with y'all's help in the direction we have with commissioners here now, we're gonna have the ability to do that and start us in the right direction. Probably by putting on a couple more staff people too that can be the spearheads once we start it, keep the engine running. And, so I think y'all have done an outstanding job on this.
Great, thank you.
I really appreciate it. You know, you got to have a concept sometimes before you can get anything started.
You know, and we're available to answer questions, you know, later on if you think of something, you know.
Mister,
feel
y'all have
free to
any
think.
comments or anything like that?
No, like I said, I'm floored by the concept, and, you know, as you're talking about tech industries, and I know the tech business started, you know, they kind of piggyback on bigger tech to try to, you know, contract with them, so smaller office spaces are perfect for, you know, what we're looking for. And I think we've captured the concept that we want. We don't want to be, and I'm not trying to be rude, and we're not trying to be Leland, we're just trying to throw stuff everywhere. We're trying to come up with a nice, pleasant, comfortable, friendly climate for people to kind of come and relax, but still provide facilities and resources.
Well, it's a totally different kind of space. I mean, location maybe is a better word to use than what Leland has.
And you've seen, I mean, you've been through Chapel Hill and Durham, just buildings, strip malls thrown up everywhere. You know, I think you capture what we're trying to do. We're trying to make something.
Well, look, on one aspect, y'all talking about the roadway out here, DOT's already got a plan, it's been set back, we call everything this out here, back down to this back access road will be 4 lane. So we know that's gonna happen.
Right.
But that'll help us a lot with the extra flow of traffic on the bottom end and just, up here at Spotlight, making that a four-way basically. And working with DOT where we can, the traffic's got a free flow coming in and out. And, I hope there's a lot of traffic. The more traffic, the more people spend their money. But I think another thing too that we haven't got here, and we hear constantly, we got a lot of, we don't have no major restaurants here. No major steakhouse, no big, just nice place you can go in and sit and eat that's reasonable. They're not here right now. And for some reason, I don't know why our area is not attracting what people really want. So our outlying small towns here in the county are actually getting the opportunity to build restaurants and what we're getting right here in the Leland, in our area. And I just don't understand. I mean, we get a Chick-fil-A, we get a Wendy's, or, you know, Hardee's, Burger King. People want a nice restaurant to go sit down and get a nice meal. Or a nice restaurant, they can go on the riverfront and sit and have anywhere from a sandwich to a nice evening dinner.
I see the pallet, a pallet house kind of a place.
Yes.
And Elijah's right next door, yeah.
So, you know, and the seafood's a big draw, you know, this area, people love seafood. We do have one, actually, the only seafood place up here is in our town. The Cape Fear Seafood Company.
Mhm.
They have good food. But I think when we get them in our downtown area, I want them to stay there. You know, not go down and run in one store and run out. I want things that make them want to stay there, walk around. One, to spend more money. Two, then we know they're enjoying what they're seeing and they like what they see and it attracts more people. And then also have events that attracts people because, you know, our park will be attached directly to it, with the walkway, bike paths, the ability to go out on the river. So we can offer a lot of things that a lot of places can't offer. When you have the water that close to you and the way we have it here, plus with Eagle Island, we had a boat trip with the Eagle Island Coalition. What day was that thing?
On Friday.
On Friday, they're looking at developing some of the Eagle Island, putting a park and other things there, and the bike path, walk path from here, maybe all the way to Battleship in the front of the river facing the Cape Fear. And if all that ties in and we get this downtown bit, that's just a bigger attraction.
Absolutely.
Attract people to it. And there's a lot of potential here. We just got to be ready for it. I think y'all have given us one of the first steps. Our concept, we get it together, then we got to go out and start selling, put the pieces together.
Well, this will give you the opportunity to be purposeful about it.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much.
Thank you, it's been
Thank
fun.
you so much. We
We've
really
had a good
appreciate
time.
it.
We'll have the rest of it to you soon.
I'm thrilled to death already. I can't wait to get some of it out.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other comments from any of the commissioners? One, okay, we'll move on to 6B on the presentations. Mr. Brendan Taylor, Eagle Scout Project Troop 747. Have you come up forward? How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
We'll just let you make a few comments, because we know we had the event in part, and we appreciate that.
So, over a few weeks ago, I had an education ceremony for my Eagle Scout project, which was getting tables and part of it. And again, I would like to extend my thanks to the town hall for letting me get back to the community that I grew up in. And made me bring up the scouting career a lot more than what it was drinking. Which makes it feel more of makes it feel a lot more of a personal achievement than just something to put on a resume. Which I'm happy to have this as part of my life. And thank you again.
We have I think all of y'all, are aware, we went down, we had a large group of people there in the park, we parked benches now, people who go down, relax on, sit on, with future leaders here in our community across the country, made happen. Folks get their bid for the Eagle Scout. Like I said, we appreciate the project. It shows a lot of your character, stand for dedication, for everything that you have to be a future leader here in our country. For that, this presentation, I know y'all got off on. Oh, yeah, got that. I need a motion to put Commissioner Merle back into our meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Thank you, Commissioner. I have to go, but I just let. I've got to read this. Resolution 20-31. Resolution of the Belville Board of Commissioners thanking Brian Taylor for his Eagle Scout project, whereas the Boy Scouts of America's vital force in the development of our youth group has many programs which encourage the ability of its members to do things for themselves and especially for others. Where one of the major objectives in the scouting program is develop citizenship through community involvement. The Scouts are encouraged to participate in community service projects and earn citizenship merit badges. Whereas Brian Taylor's Eagle Scout project was to construct several picnic tables at the Runderberg Walk Park and Town Hall, and whereas Brian Taylor has proven himself to be an outstanding member of the Boy Scouts of America and is striving to attain the highest honor bestowed on the Scout, the Eagle Scout Award. Whereas the Eagle Scout is a distinction that will follow him throughout life and will be a beacon to others of leadership quality and commitment this young man has shown. Now therefore it be resolved that the Belville Board of Commissioners thanks Brian Taylor for completion of his Eagle Scout project and encourages him to continue his commitment to excellence adopted this 16th of November 2020. I have a motion to accept resolution 20-31.
Motion to accept.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. I'd like to give this approval. Thank you so much for the project. And it'll be enjoyed by the town and the people for a long time ago. Thank you so much.
Brian, I just want to say, it's a huge thing. I'm not going to speak for Mr. Long, because he was an Eagle Scout, he is an Eagle Scout. His son is on his way to be an Eagle Scout, and I know it's not really Eagle Scouts. We know the commitment and hard work that you did, and you too, Mom, for doing this. So it's huge. I forgot what the percentage is, it's percent of scouts, Eagle Scouts. So this is incredible. So my hat's off to you for doing an amazing job. Thank you.
Just to build on what Mayor Pro Tem just shared, doing more. Outstanding dedication to your community, outstanding dedication to others around. And thank you for your leadership. Thank you.
Okay, I want to say, know they're going to be used for a long time to come. I really enjoyed being out there during the dedication ceremony and everything, which people already use to start with. But thank you so much for the project. We hope to see a lot more of it in the future. Okay, item 6C, we're gonna go ahead since the individual could not be here tonight. Y'all don't mind, or the board has no problem, we'll move that to a later date. I don't think do I need a motion on that?
No, sir.
So let's go ahead and see. Y'all follow that? Okay, moving on to 7, on the old business, birthday on the Jungle River Walk project. I don't know if I'm supposed to make a comment on that or. Madam Town Manager, would you like to say anything?
Just wanted to get your reflections on Veterans Day, had a wonderful ceremony, a lot of celebration day. And you did a wonderful job as a speaker, and we're very inspiring.
Yeah, we had, we're trying to decide, that was the second rainy day on Veterans Day. So we're trying to make a decision, where to go with or not go with, if we decide to go with it. We had, probably, about a dozen people showed up, it was surprising, but it wasn't raining hard. Most of the other events, had canceled out. But we went ahead and went on ours, and, gracious to the Lord, he had smiled on us, also the rain quit, it opened up, blue sky popped out. It let us get through our ceremony and our dedication to the veterans. Which, we opened up the veteran park, which has a large attraction for veterans here in our area. Brunswick County and New Hanover County have one of the largest veteran populations in the state. That says a lot about what you were talking about, attracting a lot of old guys. I retired out and done military time in the director of Brunswick Community College. He was there, as well as some commissioners, but it was a good day, went extremely well. And luckily, we got a lot of press out of it. I'm happy with that. A lot of coverage. I'm trying to think, anything else? Nothing reflect back on our enforcement. One thing I will go back on with our farmers market, and I think y'all realize this too, they had the pumpkin for the fall festival. I talked with our guy, Daniel Little, that he runs the produce stand and set that up. With people taking pictures with all the pumpkins, and you see some of the pictures right here that really enjoyed it. His sales were extremely big, and a lot of it. So we're doing the things here in the town to get the environment that we want here. It allows us to attract a lot of people. As you notice on the weekends, our park is full. We attract a lot of people. They love to come here. That's a process we want to keep up. Put an environment where people, the families can come here and enjoy themselves. And I think we're moving in that direction every day, getting better. It's only because I have the staff and the commissioners that also are on the same thought pattern to make this town a better place, make it a great place that people want to stay, live, and visit. So thank all of y'all for that, the staff and the commission. Any other comments on that? Upcoming events, my town manager, I'll let you handle some of that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tree lighting will be coming up soon, and the Parks and Rec Board has a meeting this coming Thursday. We will be working on the plans for that event, and we'll have a report for you shortly after.
Yeah, we tried to drive in movie theater thing. Went well. I mean, first time you try it, of course, you got issues you got to deal with. Our town manager gave us, I just read our after action review, which was exceptionally well. Being in the military all year, everything we've done had to have after action. You get the pros and cons of anything we've done. So again, we're looking at maybe having a Christmas one. guess we're heading in that direction too. So everything in our park's going well. You know, COVID has created issues for us. You know, a lot of events we had to cancel because of the COVID virus. And hopefully with the vaccine coming out, it comes out in December and is effective, we can start changing things, maybe by summer next year, we'll be back to some kind of normalcy. I hope, instead of being locked down, we can't move. So, any comments from any commissioners on anything about the park? If not, I'll put B, update on street repairs, and drain repairs on South Old Town line. Want me to handle that again?
Just wanted you to know that we are waiting on two parts. Some of the investigation has been done, the pipe has been vetted out, and we have an action plan that some of our catch basins have some dimensions that the parks are hard to find. So as soon as those come in, we'll be working on that project.
Yeah, again, if y'all haven't ridden over there, get a chance to go by. One thing I'm proud to say is, you know, when we have issues in our town, we try to handle them in a very rapid manner. It's not something we set back. If we have an issue, if it's a sinkhole or a big hole in the middle of the road, there's a problem, we get, at least we get the engineer out, we get a look at it, assess the problem, then we don't have to wait, we can fix it. So it's in the process of getting fixed. We found out we had more issues than we initially thought, created by not only tornado, but the water. In the process of getting that done. I think people on South Old Town line would be very happy with it. So moving on to C, update on coronavirus action. I think you can back me up on this. I think the governor has put out some similar new guidance where we're kind of backing up a little bit instead of going forward, based on the increase of the number of people that are getting the virus, and also the number of hospital people being put in the hospital. That's one reason we're hoping, at least I'm hoping, I hope everybody does, the vaccines that they're claiming is going to be put out in December will start changing things. They're effective. So one of them supposed to be 95% effective almost, the other one's over 90% effective. And both of them are talking about putting out about 20 million vaccines in December. So that's a total of 40 million vaccines. One of them, though, I think issue they have with it, it has to be kept at such a low temperature. Probably the only places that can really handle it will be hospitals or larger facilities. The other company that's developed theirs, it can be kept in a normal freezer or cold can preserve it. And I think Dave, you might have to help me on that. I think both of them require 2 shots that you have to have. But if they're that effective, that's a good sign. I hope we get in that direction. I hope in December they can put out as many of those as they can. They said that the mechanism for getting those vaccines out is there. All they got to do is activate it and make it happen. So we'll see. Anybody want to make a comment on that? If not, we'll move on to D. Update on Vision 2030 plan.
Ms. Harrington is on the
Ms.
line.
Harrington, going
Yes,
into that.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Wonderful. Good evening. It's good to quote unquote see you guys again. And I wanted to just provide you guys a quick update regarding the Vision 2030 plan. Athena and I have been working really hard to make sure that we pull together the the stakeholder committee and the steering committee as well. So currently on the steering committee, we have representatives from your board, as well as the Town of Belville Planning Board, Parks and Rec. We've got Brunswick County Planning involved, Brunswick Business and Industry Development. We have representation from the local homeowners association leaders, the WMPO, NCDOT. We have some tourism experts that are also involved, as well as the Chamber of Commerce and the Eagles Island Community Rowing Club. So we feel like we've got a pretty good group here. We're going to get a few things finalized with that steering committee tomorrow. And then we have our stakeholder group, which, if you guys remember, this is going to be more of the private sector. You know, this could be, you know, developers or, you know, utility companies that are really going to be instrumental in the actual developments of the downtown area. But we have representation from the Board of Commissioners, as well as the Planning Board. And we are working to kind of finalize some of those people as well. But we do already have commitments from the Chamber of Commerce, ATMC, Tourism, Brunswick Electric, and H2Go on that committee as well. So we definitely feel like we have two really good groups to pull together and get some input and some good conversations started to get this plan kicked off. And if there's anything, any questions I can answer, I am happy to do so.
Adrian, we appreciate all the hard work you're doing. Like I say, we'll be talking about the grant that we received next.
Yes.
Gotta thank you for that too. That's a major accomplishment. Letting us go forward with what's happening in our park system. But also, you know, with the vision that we have for the town, it's nice, at least just toward the end of the year, we're getting back on track, heading in the direction we should have been heading in for a right good while. But this time, we're gonna make it work. And just thank you for being a part of that too, Adrian. Appreciate you a lot.
Absolutely. And, you know, I love, you know, everything that Robin and her team has pulled together. And I'm just really looking forward to, you know, incorporating all of the data and the research that they've gathered into, you know, incorporating all of your input and ideas and suggestions moving forward. So I'm excited to work with you guys.
They give us the starting point. And that's what we need. We got to have something, some type of vision. I say we talk about it every day, but we got to have a starting point. They started that, you started that, and we're going to keep that going forward. Thank you. Thank you again, Adrian.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to E, update on the water public access grant. Adrian, you want to make some comments on that?
Well, I don't know. Would you like for me to make the wonderful announcement, or would you like to do that?
Well, if you want to push this, work on it, got it forward, I'm excited, but you go ahead and tell people about it.
All right, well, then I will definitely do that. So we are absolutely thrilled to let everybody know that the Town of Belville has been awarded $191,500 to install the non-motorized boat launch. So this one will replace the existing rowboat launch, but it will be to commercial standards, which should be ADA compliant. It will accommodate canoes, kayaks, rowboats, anything non-motorized. It's going to be a pretty sizable boat launch. So that is included in the funded projects. And then we're also going to be replacing the existing boat dock ramp, which actually I don't even think is existing anymore because you guys pulled the last few pieces out of the water off of that concrete ramp. So with these funds, we will be able to get that replaced so that when, you know, somebody's backing their boat into the water, they will not be standing up to their waist in water or falling into the water trying to get their boat in the water. So we are quite excited about that. And regarding a timeline, we do have to get into contract with Division of Coastal Management first. So we can't spend any grant funds until that contract has been finalized. So that'll definitely be after Thanksgiving. It may be after Christmas before we can do that. But I will keep you guys posted on that project as it starts to unfold. And I am very excited and looking forward to a groundbreaking ceremony, a ribbon cutting ceremony. And when this is a ribbon cutting ceremony, I can promise you, me and my kayak will be there as well. We will take great pictures and have a wonderful celebration.
Adrian, like I say, we appreciate it. I'm looking forward to a lot more grants that we will be getting for our park. I thought it's the first time I walked in my office and I actually seen a letter from the governor's office, and I wondered why in the world the governor would write me a letter. But when I opened it up, I was pleasantly surprised that he was just, telling me he was, great for him to be able to announce that we got that grant. And, so that was one of the happiest days I've had in a while. And Adrian, a lot of that's, because of you and your abilities, and we appreciate it. And, we look forward to getting more done. We look forward to going forth, on getting our new dock and getting the boats and the kayakers. And, I think they'll love to bring you a facility when we get it. I'm looking forward to going forward with that. And thank you.
Absolutely. Me too. And thank you.
No, Adrian, it's just overwhelming what you've done and how far you've helped this town move forward on these things. Not only with this, but with the vision program too. I mean, we are doing a lot this year, so thank you very much for assisting us with that.
Absolutely. Even though it's 2020, we're still making it an exciting year.
Yeah, so far at the end of this year, I'm actually feeling pretty good about it.
Right.
Thank you again, Adrian.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to item 8, regular agenda, transportation update. Basic WMPO, and I forgot when my next meeting is. The COVID virus has still got a restraint. DOT, a lot of the projects now, have been backed up 1 or 2 years. And it's all about funding, for DOT. And even some of the projects they already had dedicated, those funding, kind of went away. And now they're trying to find them as they come back. And a lot of them had to do with FEMA and the amount of money the state paid out during 2 hurricanes. And some of that money's slow about coming in, which also goes back to DOT. So they even asked us to suggest programs or possibles of generating revenue for DOT. Because COVID's pushed back people driving, so the gas tax is down. They had projected the sales tax would go down a lot, but I don't think it went back as much as they projected. People still spending money. Matter of fact, I think our projection was a little bit more than we thought it would. We thought it would go down, but we actually went up. So that's a good sign. But still, DOT, the last I heard, they do have the legislative side with, along with the governor's office, are finding ways to shovel more money into the DOT to get some of these major projects back on track. We have 2 projects here in our town that got pushed back a year, but hopefully, the way it's looking, we can make those happen next year, at least projected to happen next year. So on that side of it, looking good. I think the COVID virus is still a big driver on what's going to happen here in the state, the movement, the money, the projects on DOT. So we keep having our meetings. The rail realignment is another thing that they're pushing for us to look at hard. It's going to be very costly. And it's going to take quite a time to do it because the environmental studies will have to be done where that track, they want to put the track. Other than that, everything's just wonderful. We're just thankful we're moving on.
Just really, did you want to mention the kickoff for the multi-use pass on Friday?
Reorganization.
The groundbreaking ceremony for the multi-use pass?
Oh, yeah, on Friday at 2:00, for the 2 projects we got on the multi-use pass, that will be involved, as we put in on these two projects, working with DOT, and, some of that we'll have a groundbreaking ceremony in our park at 2:00 on Friday. And, hopefully, if any of you can come and be there, we'd love to have you there. So far, some of our newly elected officials will be there. Not only in county, but our state officials will be there also. So that's a good thing. We want to show people that we're moving on and we can get projects done. Anything else I need to add on that thing? Any comments from the commissioners? Okay, under 8B, draft special minutes policy. Madam Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we move forward and as we continue to grow, one of the things that the Town of Belville loves to do is to provide events in our park for our residents and everyone in Brunswick County to enjoy. And a lot of those events are sponsored by the town. And over the years, in our previous form of government, we've had our commissioners and staff members volunteering to kind of man these events. But as we continue to grow and as our responsibilities increase, we are looking for a mechanism to empower the Parks and Recreation Board to kind of take over the management of those events. And so this is a result, this plan that you see before you is a result of that. And we are asking that you would review it and give us some feedback for the next meeting in December. We are going to discuss this with Parks and Recreation Board on Thursday and get their feedback. If there's anything that you see that we may be omitting, just let us know. And we want to continue to just be a place that the residents and the community knows that they can come in and enjoy our park. And, you know, with the contributions of Adrian and all of the different consultants that we have, our staff, it's just been really amazing to see the transformation of the town over the past 14 years. And I'm very lucky to be a part of that. So thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you on that. FEMA brought that to my attention as we were looking at some of the things that was going on in the park. You know, instead of the commissioners and the staff being the people that having to handle all aspects of these special events, it shouldn't be that way. The Parks and Rec Board has put it together. We got to try to see if we can attract more volunteers over a period of time, but then have one of the parks that sit on the Park and Rec Board be like the project organizer that runs it, makes it happen. And if they need something from the staff, that'll be up to our town manager to assist in and make those decisions and of course make us aware of what's going on. But as time goes on, we'll try to develop a policy, and that's a talk with the Parks and Rec Board. We can develop a policy out of that and get them to buy in, taking ownership on these special projects that they come up with. Any comments from the commissioners?
It's a very comprehensive draft. There's a lot of work that's gone into it. So,
Thank you. And I do need to recognize Adrian and Carla for assisting me in pulling this together. So thank you guys.
Yeah, there's a lot, and I hope y'all are seeing it too. We're trying to make a lot of changes here in the town. We're trying to develop not only ourselves as the mayor and commissioners, but our staff, our boards that we have, and start to get in line the way other towns work a lot of this. I guess I'd have to say that we got to quit thinking too small town, start getting into the real world, but we want our town. We like the environment, and I think all of us like the size of our town. But we got a lot more to offer people to come to our town, and we've got to take the process it's going to take to do that. And I think the group we have today, we can make that happen. So thank you all again. Another comment, we'll move on to item 9, the closed session. Before I get into that, any comments or anything from anyone? I'd like to thank y'all again for coming tonight. Anybody wants to stay can, but we thank you for being here and look forward to working with you in the future. Okay, under closed session, I'm looking at general statute 143-318-1103. Consult with the attorney, including litigation, Town of Belville, versus Town of Belville, and Drummond County. Do I have a motion to go to closed session? All in favor? All opposed? Ayes have it. Yeah, I don't know. At least one of them cleaning, you gotta worry about the bread. Okay, can I have a motion to come back into open session? So moved. Okay, there's no decisions, coming out of the, closed session, other than getting legal out of our permanent litigation. So any other comments, any commissioner, Mayor Pro Tem? Sir. Staff, any comments?
Sir, just want to remind you about the Spring Blueprint Vision meetings tomorrow afternoon. If you can participate, we are having meetings at 4, 5, 6 p.m. Or you can send me your written comments and we will pass this forward.
I know, I think I told y'all, so you know, but now we're trying to work in with the county's planning side. They've offered some assets that we need them and help, but we might start trying to use it short term, at least start maybe utilize some of their assets. But there's nothing else, I have a motion to be adjourned. All in favor? I have all opposed. Thank you. That's quick. You got like 5 minutes. Oh, sure. Check in the girls.
Hey, did that permission slip work okay for the